Welcome to your Frequency Shift podcast, hosted by human design and gene key specialist Karis and myself, Nick, a life strategist. We are your experts in navigating how to bring deep satisfaction, fulfillment, and helping you connect to the feeling of being alive in your business, body, and relationships. On this podcast, we dive into all things spirituality, reparenting, relationships, business, and personal growth hacks.
I'm so excited that we get to have Xavier back. And yeah, we haven't planned anything for this episode, so we're just going to see what message comes through. So yes, I just wanted to ask, how are you, Nick?
I'm doing great. I just did the dishes now, so I'm feeling good. Yeah. Love doing dishes.
I know you do.
And Xavier just had his little beautiful baby. And we've seen the pictures on Instagram, and we are just so overjoyed. And you look so overjoyed. You don't look tired at all. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Honestly, it's an honor to be here and to have this conversation. How I'm doing? The answer to that is, in multiple ways. I can say sometimes exhausted, and at the same time, there's a part of me that is just like so passionate to keep doing the work, to keep showing up. So sometimes I'm going to be doing stuff with the baby in my hand, and it's like, okay, I need to be able to hold space for everything, be here for them, and at the same time, be here for my heart. And I take breaks when I need to. And it's just this really interesting space where I get to be all of this at the same time. And this has been amazing for me to just lean into. It wasn't a habit. It didn't come natural to me. So I am learning to be there for myself, be there for the family, and be there for the purpose. Because there's a part of me that knows it must all be possible. You know, like it's a world of inclusion. So I'm learning to lean into that.
It just is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. One thing that's been really important for me to incorporate into this life that I'm trying to build, or that I am building, is just that abundance on all levels. We grew up with this idea that if you work hard, then your family suffers because they don't see you because of the amount of time that you put in. Or if you are with your family, then you don't get as much money because you're not putting time into X area. And what has been important for me to instill in myself and just let go of all the limiting beliefs saying that it's not possible, because it is. Even if it takes longer, you have to figure out systems and things that work for you. But you can have that on all levels, and nobody needs to suffer, you know? So
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you think about it, why must you suffer to be abundant?
You see, it's very contradictory too.
And it is very, and there is always a part of you that is cutting the flow somewhere. If you assume it needs to be this or that, you know, you're cutting that abundance somewhere, you know, because abundance is really like that flow of energy that is willing to be activated in all areas. And the question that I ask myself lately all the time, how much am I willing to receive? How much am I willing to receive? And every time I do that, it feels like an openness within. And this is what I'm trying to lean into.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so to the point.
This week was really something we both had to dig in with prosperity and abundance, and what not even our mindset, but like the beliefs and the generational patterns and all of those things. And you can go on for years and years putting yourself under this microscope, examining what is it that brought you here? Is it your family? Is it your what choices, what limiting beliefs do you have? All of those things, you can put yourself under that microscope. Or what the image that came to me when I was in the meditation and saying my little prosperity prayer was that there's this river of abundance, essentially. And our minds have limited this energy, this abundance energy, to be such a we've limited it, and there's no limit to this water. So when you stand in there, it doesn't matter what limiting beliefs you have or what level these things are. If you're standing in that river and that flow of abundance, there's like, those things aren't gonna hold up, you know. You just become abundant eventually, and not eventually, but I mean,
but it's your natural state.
Yeah, when you step into that space, all of those other things sort of fall away, and they get washed away by these healing waters, essentially. So I hope that makes sense.
It does to me.
Yeah. I hope this makes sense to anyone listening.
It does to me, and I love that. Alrighty. When we opened this conversation with the intention of talking about racism or racial unity and everything that's going on right now globally, and when I started focusing on that myself, the thought that came up was, and through anti-racism work, it's really healing, in my opinion. It's really, I want to say, emotional healing, spiritual healing. It is truly remembering who we are, because we have been buying into the illusion of separation, you know, and that illusion has been amplified by our upbringing, our programming, the color of our skins, and a lot of people are trying to look at the anti-racism work through the lens of, you know, I don't see color. And I get where that comes from the perspective of wanting unity. But I feel like collectively we are invited to this space where we accept our humanity fully, and at the same time our divinity fully at the same time, you know, and wanting to only live in that divinity perspective and bypassing all of the humanity perspective here, in my experience, it doesn't really work well. But being able to hold both truths, in my opinion, this is where the true power that we are invited to grab is. And when I think about it, I'm thinking about 2020, which means, in my opinion, clear vision, perfect vision, like holding space for everything and seeing everything that we have been putting on the back seat for the longest time because it was uncomfortable. And I feel like the energy of this year is just so appropriate for everything that we are going through at the moment. So there is a part of me that is rejoicing because of what is happening. And there is a part of me that also takes that more human part of me. I understand that, God, this work is hard, you know, but we get to lean into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what.
I fully agree with what you're saying, and your perspective. It's so enlightening, and I love the metaphor of the 2020 vision. That is just beautiful, and this is honestly a collective opportunity to shed light on the things that we've been sweeping under the rug. We have been stepping into that spiritual bypassing space. As you've noticed, people have really started to segregate now with the spirituality movement, with the sexual movements and the genres and all these different aspects. And obviously the racial movement has been there for how long, but now it's just at a point where, okay, we need to start bridging the gaps. And how are we going to do that? And you clearly have the answer for that at this moment in time, because you are just saying, hey, I'm going to just trigger you if you like it or not.
So it is very interesting, because something that really happens when you start bringing the light in the room that was always dark, you start seeing the dust. You start seeing everything that was hiding in the dark. And this is what we are seeing within ourselves and also on the outside. Like, we are seeing all those stuff emerging about, you know, child trafficking, racism, and all those on and on. Like, even more sensitive subjects if we even allow ourselves to look at things like vaccines and stuff like that, right? So we are seeing things that were just always going on and that we couldn't see because there was just like the consciousness wasn't at a level where we were ready to look at our own shadows. But
and there
now
was just that veil that was there.
Absolutely.
And then in turn, the perspective wasn't there as well. So you wouldn't be able to take it in.
Absolutely. So now we are in this space where we get to see it move to the next step, to move to the next level. And this is really, really beautiful in my experience. And it's also very hard because it takes to really work with the parts of yourself that sometimes it was never appropriate, to show those parts publicly or to even acknowledge that we have them within ourselves. Like for a lot of people that I come across with, I always tell them, we are all racist, learning to love one another even more. And this is something that triggers them. They're like, no, I don't identify as a racist. I don't. And every time we do a little bit of digging, you can always find on some level, some judgment that comes up just because of the color of the skin, So this is the reason why I always bring that up. I can recognize in my humanity aspect that I am a racist, learning to love people even more. And when you come from that perspective, whatever got stirred up within you, you get to look at it then. You get to look at it. So in this work, my invitation, the work needs to be done at many levels. The first is the education, the information, and the awareness. That is like the first step when it comes to anti-racism work. Education, information, awareness, like being willing to see and to validate what has been happening for the longest time. For me, that's the first step. Being willing to see and validate, oh, right, this is what has been happening. This is how this person has been feeling. Both sides. This is how people of color, Black people have been feeling for the longest time, but I wasn't aware of that. This is how white people have been experiencing the whole thing. This is why, some of them felt so unsafe addressing all of this. So it takes some sort of not only information awareness, but also emotional awareness of what the other person was going through, what you yourself has been going through, and also awareness of the conditioning that you've been exposed to without knowing. So it takes a full awareness. And in my opinion, there is a really powerful healing attribute of consciousness. It's just like being willing, the same way when you become aware of water, just your only presence, your only conscious focus at the water can change it chemically. The same way you get aware of a problem, that divine consciousness that we've been granted with has the capacity to allow a shift to happen. So it takes courage right now, spiritual courage, to be able to be willing to see what has been going on. Oh, this is what was really going on. This is how this person has been feeling. This is how I've been feeling myself. This is how I've been programmed. And then there is a next step which is really diving and doing the cleanup, basically. So
the uncomfortable part.
Yeah. And that one, I would argue, is the most difficult part.
Yep.
Oh.
I shared a post, I think a week and a half ago, about how these behaviors start at home. And your kids, it's not do as I say, it's do as I do. They listen to how you speak to your partner. They listen to how you speak to people that work for you. They listen to how you speak to people of color. And when you speak to someone of color differently than you speak to anyone else, they pick up on that as well, and they start doing that. And it's learned behavior. If you want to start changing things as well, you also need to take radical responsibility for how you've also contributed towards that. And that's where the importance of, like you said, the awareness, but then also the willingness to go in deep, do the work, and then also make the change from here on out. But if you have decided to do this work and you have the awareness, Xavier and I were chatting before we got onto the call. There was a gentleman that messaged me to say he has he's aware of his racial, how discriminating he is, but he sort of went, this is how I grew up, but I want to change it. If you're there in that place, congratulations, that's the first step. But the next step is the most important and the most difficult. So like Xavier said, it takes courage, it takes bravery. This next level of where you want to build your life, it really takes courage and bravery. So if you would like to go ahead and find out what the next step is for you, I'll just
like it is so, like there is so much information out there, like information of all kinds. And the good thing about the abundance of information is we react to them. We react to that information. And it is very important right now to be aware of, because it is sometimes for the mind, it is hard to just go in the past and pick up that moment in time where your mom or one teacher or something or someone said something to you about another race that you picked up and that you assimilated. But emotions are very powerful to bring to consciousness things. And how do you become aware of that is while you do your own education about racism, while you do your own search, while you become aware, pay attention to what triggers you. And I'm not necessarily talking about seeing somebody being murdered, because sometimes we get triggered at the human level. Seeing another human being murdered is a natural human reaction to get, I want to say to be emotionally moved by that, because we are human. But another comment that might be seen as either racist or a comment that makes you defend yourself, especially when you hear somebody from another skin color as yours, like really pay attention to what makes you want to defend yourself. What makes you want to dive into righteousness? What makes you want to argue? What makes you feel rage or anger? It's really important to pay attention to all of those, because those triggers are really gold. And my intention is to separate at that moment the messenger, the person, the post that triggered you, from the message. And the message is not what was said in there. The message is just the feeling that you experience. That is the message. The message is you actually allowing yourself to receive, because there was a part of you that was poked by what you just read. And that part of you is claiming just wholeness with you, reconciliation with you. And it is being poked because you are ready. So when you allow yourself to really dive into the feeling without trying to change it whatsoever, just experiencing your own emotion fully, it's as if you are in a state of emotional observer. Like, this is how I feel. And you take it in fully. And then what you can do is to validate the feeling. Because we have so many judgments about what we think or believe or feel about racial issues. No, if I allow myself to validate it, I'm going to be considered a racist. But if you invalidate the way you are feeling at that time, the part of you that wanted to become whole, you are at that time, again, making a part of you wrong. You are not willing to be unconditional with the whole of you, right? So you are making the part of you that assimilated the belief back then when you were younger with your family, you are making that part of you wrong. And if you are willing to validate how you feel, regardless of how good or bad society says it is, you are calling that part of you forward. It's like your body, your emotional body is like, okay, it feels like it is safe for me to show you this part of you right now. And then it might come back as a memory. It might come back as a sensation. You might start to remember something and allow yourself really to be in the memory at the time, to really experience again what happens. And I've done this work with many people. I've seen a client remembering how she was driving a car. She was with her grandfather, and her grandfather told, it was their previous neighborhood. The grandfather said, I am really glad we moved from this neighborhood because it became a Black neighborhood. And she remembered being sitting in the back seat of the car back then, and she was hurt, but she didn't say anything. She didn't want to offend her grandfather. So doing that work of sitting, feeling the trigger, feeling the emotion associated with it, and also validating the emotion, not saying I am bad if I feel this way, I am wrong if I feel this way. It allows your body to basically deliver the seed. And you can ask yourself, where did I begin to feel this feeling for the first time? And if you've really been at a place where you are fully and open to do this work, your emotional body, your innate intelligence will deliver, because this is the job of your emotional body. It wants to feel whole. Healing is the natural order of business. But healing is interrupted when we have made it unsafe. So when you create that safety, it is okay for me to feel this way. I'm willing to be fully present with this feeling. Where did I begin to feel it the first time it shows up? And when it shows up, you want to experience it fully again. You want to validate the reaction that you had at that time. Meaning, a 5-year-old boy in a family where the parent said, it is safe for you to treat those people this way. And that 5-year-old boy assimilating that because the mom said, it is safe for me, to be careful when I'm with this group. You cannot make that kid wrong, right? Because he was just willing to abide and to belong with his mom. And right now, in that experience, you need to be with him, with the kid, and validate the kid again. And once you are able to do that, you feel like a slow integration happening. And that slow integration, it's as if a part of yourself that was casted out, because at some point in time you realize owning this part of myself would make me look racist, so I'm disowning this part. You start receiving that part of you, and integration starts happening. And at that moment, because you became aware of this, you get to make a new agreement with that kid within you. Right now, it's safe for you to accept people the way they are, and you can create that healing coming whole circle every time you get triggered that way. So it's really important to do the education part, the knowing, the seeing what is happening, but it's also important to do the work of like receiving a trigger and really diving deeper, emptying that shadow so that you can see, oh, this is what was happening in there. A part of me got frozen in time here, stuck in the belief that, oh, okay, Black people might be hurtful for me, or white people are sneaky, or they might want to, like, whatever belief you really agreed to in the past. So this is a simple process, well, simple but still very uncomfortable, that gets people to claim their wholeness.
And I just want to comment on what you said then. I found that so interesting. The fact that you've taken the education aspect, that's been one side of it, and the other side is obviously the internal work. And I think right now, so many people get so triggered and they get stuck in the educational and the historical aspect, but then forget to jump into the inner work. And there's that disconnect, and they feed each other because the one creates awareness, the other one also creates awareness, and they integrate as you begin to integrate from all aspects. I think that's so important. People are so stuck on maybe one aspect of this and forgetting the other.
I think that there's generally just a lot of anger that's come up for everyone, where it is that there's a lot of polarity in the fact that, I mean, in people's head, there's two sides, and the one side doesn't feel heard, and the other side feels
self-righteous
and shame because they don't feel heard. With that, this is why I love what you were saying about it's embodiment work, essentially, which is embodying what you're feeling and fully going through that motion. I always believe that emotions like anger and frustration, and when you feel that disturbance of peace in your body, you as a human being were designed to release those emotions and to fully feel them. You can't release them unless you fully feel them and see where this is coming from so that you can integrate with that part of yourself. So with all of the work that you was talking about, I wanted to ask you about the emotional hygiene, because like I said, a lot of people have been feeling very angry, very unheard. I think that there's a lot of pain as well for women of color as well, because then, I mean, when you dissect all of these levels, there's, at the most part, there's a lot of pain and anger. So when you go to the topic of emotional hygiene, that is, I wanted to hear what your definition of it was, but for me, I think it's really important to differentiate what you are feeling in terms of, is this the collective feeling affecting me? Is this or is this my own? Because normally that collective feelings will trigger up all of the past traumas that you've gone through, and then it's in that space where it's perpetuating itself. Everything is feeding everything. So how do you
discern?
Yeah, how do you come back? And then also, how do you become, have that emotional hygiene, essentially?
And I want to say, especially for very sensitive people, they're going to be very, very influenced by the collective climate. Let's call it this way. So, we pick up emotions, we pick up, vibration, and we tend to kind of merge it with the same way we are feeling. The first thing that I want to bring up is, one thing that feels true to me is, you will only fully feel, you will sense the collective, like in terms of what is the collective vibration is, but it will only very unsettle you at the level where it is pulling out of you a part of yourself that also hasn't been fully integrated. Because in that, the when we look at things from the perspective of this world of mirror, and we get so able to sense what is going on collectively, I often come across different kind of empath. You're gonna find a lot of them that have done like extremely deep shadow work. So they will tell you what they sense, but they can tell you that with like a certain amount of sovereignty, and others will also tell you what they sense, which is very accurate, and they might lose themselves in their emotions because a lot of what they sense is also bringing forth within them some parts of themselves that still need a little bit of integration. So every time I come across one, I'm like, what is being triggered within you by this collective? What is being triggered within you by the collective? And when you collect those pieces of yourself, you are able to have a deeper awareness. This belongs to me. This doesn't belong to me anymore. Because your slate is kind of clean internally, and you get that sensation of being, it's always like being triggered. You get that sensation where it's like from the outside in, not from the inside out.
Yeah.
I don't know if it kind of makes sense. And whenever it is strongly from the outside in and it feels painful, there is something within you that is asking for like reconciliation again. And the emotional hygiene for me is basically, to do the screening of what you're feeling. Like, it is very important to not put things under the rug emotionally, or like saying, I can just get over it. It is possible to get over it. It is possible to go back to that space of consciousness maintenance where you wrap yourself, you have bubble wrap again around you so that you don't have shocks. And usually we do that by trying to suppress absolutely everything that can trigger us in any way. But, those triggers, they always find their way to us somehow, especially when we are in relationships, especially when we are in families. It's as if those guys, they were just born to trigger you, or your partner is just put on your way so that they can trigger you. But it always happened. And my perspective is just to empty the feeling cup all the time, especially about those tiny things, to empty the feeling cup, to really just be present with what you're feeling and unconditional. And there is that thing that I always have in mind. Do not let anything unsaid or anything, unprocessed, because they tend to accumulate. They tend to accumulate. And that is a huge part of emotional hygiene, because it also gives you clarity when something bigger comes up. You are able to process, oh, what is really going on in here? Is it my stuff? Or is it just a vibe that I picked up? And for empath, it is so important to have that emotional hygiene, which means processing your own things when you get triggered and really coming back to that space within yourself. And you can ask your emotional body. It is crazy how your innate is willing to cooperate with you. And when you ask, is it coming from me or is it something that I picked up? You will be able to have some sort of like innate answer, and this is how I navigate it. Like, what is going on here? And this is me asking the question to myself, what is going on here when I sink into this feeling? And when you allow yourself to sink into the feeling, if it didn't come from you, you are able to release it in a quick second, like in a quick second. And you're going to realize, oh, it was probably something that I picked up around me. But when it belongs to you, oh, you in for a nice fight. You are into,
But it's like we said before we started this conversation, which is people are always looking for relief and answers and to grow from things. But what you don't realize is that growth and the answers always lie in the triggers, and they lie in that discomfort, and they lie in that space. But yeah, Nick hates it, but I can't go to bed if there's something that I feel isn't settled. And I don't care if it is 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock and he's dead asleep. I will wake him up so we can talk about it, and just so we can.
I understand Nick a lot.
I can't, man. I can't do that. Look, if I'm upset, like, I get it out then and there. Like, I don't hold it in. Like, it's there. I look at it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna verbalize it, and then I'll be like, I am triggered. I know I am triggered. I'll recognize it. I'll work through it, but I'll just be very open and plain. She used to be terrible at this. She used to sit on it for like 3-4 days.
Can I just say?
And it used to like cook. She used to bake it, and then I don't know. Then you ask those questions. Why are you so quiet? And you start tiptoeing, and there's this airy feeling.
Can we just say that was before I did the work? Now that I understand that, I don't leave it for that long. I think when you're an empath, there's also a responsibility for you to have the wisdom to go inwards for a little bit, take some space, and differentiate from like what is mine and what is someone else's, like you said. And I don't like reacting immediately. When I feel anger, I know that there's more space that's needed from myself and that other person. But yeah, I wanted to say to you, you shared a post about how we have volunteered as human beings to come as human beings at this time. And I love that. But
yes.
what you were saying about how you pick up things, I think as you start changing and you start moving into a space that's like a higher vibrational space, you also start becoming brighter and louder. And there are things on this planetary system and energetic system that need to be transmuted. So they sort of see you as this space, and then they sort of all come to you. So it's not a bad thing that you're feeling all of these things. It means that you are moving in the right direction. So if you are, congratulations, but good luck. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And the invitation is to just become a bigger space holder.
yeah.
You know, it is just to become an even bigger space holder. And you cannot discount yourself from that space. You need to belong to that space that you're willing to hold first. And this is really what navigating this time mean to me. And the reality of things is what is available beyond at the bottom, because we have that linear perspective of like low vibration, high vibration, and sometimes the shadows are, in that perspective of low vibration. And people are, especially spiritual people, they just want to be high all the time, and I get it. But what really happens when you go at the bottom of it? It is as if you were diving into a pond, and down below is just like another world of possibilities that open. And you just recognize that your consciousness is in this bubble. Like that humanity consciousness is in this bubble, but everything outside of the human consciousness is pure light. This is how I see it. So as you allow yourself to just dive in there, what is available on the other side is still light. It's like nothing else. I don't. It feels like you wanted to say something.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think of, how babies are born inside the womb, it's completely dark. When you plant a seed in this fertile soil, the soil is completely dark. For you to actually grow, you firstly have to be in that space. And I think that sometimes when you are on the spiritual journey, and like you said, everyone wants to be high vibe and love and light and all those things, true growth and like the amount of growth that happens in those spaces, just it's a thing of not running away, having the courage, having the bravery to face your shadows and to face that darkness, because we have this idea that darkness is bad, that our shadows are bad. But that is when you're looking at it from the view of polarity and not looking at it from what your soul is trying to communicate to you. One thing that's been made clear to me is that all of these ways that we abandon ourselves, and when we start going into manipulation, or if you go feminine, masculine, if you go black or white, if you go all of these like very, there's a lot of polarity in those spaces. When you go there, you almost have to abandon the conscious part of you that's trying to say, whoa, okay, let's just take a step back. And with that abandonment, you also, if you look at the physical abandonment, you physically have to abandon your breath as you go into that space. So when you have the awareness, this is why it is so important to come back to your breath if you're looking at some sort of anchor to bring you back into your body, so that you can have a second for your mind, body, and heart center to start circulating the information that it's trying to bring up for you, not to hurt you, but to bring awareness and to help you pay attention. It's just so important to pay attention to your breath, because it helps you slow down in that second, and then you can connect, and then you can listen, and then everything comes through. So it's the simple practice that is available to all of us, and it's freely available. You don't have to pay anyone to do it. Just breathe.
And I really love that, because the breath is also, as you slow down that breath, you are signaling your body that you are safe. And when you begin to work with triggers, your body needs to know and trust that in this moment you are safe, because we usually put things in our shadow when it wasn't safe to have them publicly outside. It was never. And that's the reason why we put them in our shadow. And being at a space where you allow yourself you create that sense of safety with your breath, you know, is really, really, really powerful, because it signals your body that, okay, this guy or this girl right now means it. He or she wants to do the work right now. So we are going to bring it to the surface,
Yeah.
you know. So that aspect is creating safety in this work is extremely important. Extremely important.
Nick and I were talking 2 days ago about how in this work you can't force anything. It's the same thing with like birth work. If you force a baby to be born, it is very traumatic, not only on the baby, but the mother and like everyone else involved. Your body doesn't like to be forced. Your heart doesn't like to be forced. And your soul doesn't like to be forced to sort of integrate, because everyone's like, oh, ego death, all of this stuff. But if you force anything to happen, nothing is going to happen. You need to feel safe. Things need to, it needs to feel like an invitation, but firstly there needs to be a trust and a safety, and you need to feel held, and you need to feel supported by yourself in the energy that you've put yourself in. So yeah, is there anything that you wanted to say, Nick, because you've been quiet?
I'm just listening. To be honest, it's you know, when you really don't have something to say, rather not say it. And I don't mean it in a bad way. Like, I'm really just listening and I'm allowing the conversation to flow. But yeah, what I just wanted to touch on quickly was just how interconnected all these different aspects are, because so many, like when Karis was talking about the stuff starts in the home, basically you're having to dig back into your inner child. You're going to have to start with healing in that aspect. And one of those aspects is going to be the racial reconciliation. And the fact that you've now brought that to light, because I don't know of anyone that has ever mentioned that. I've never read a post. I've never read a book on the racial reconciliation of the inner child.
Yeah. So this is really...
This is cutting edge.
Go ahead.
To be honest, this is you just taking the reins and saying, this is what we need to shine the light on. And I really am just honored to have listened to the words of wisdom that has come out. And funny enough, I think it was last week, where I was sitting and really looking at, you know, the messenger of the emotion, the person that is now triggering the emotion, and how often the self-righteous aspect of ego wants to hit back and hit the messenger, because now it's trying to protect you because you're not feeling safe. Whereas if you allow yourself to shift perspective and not look at the messenger, as you mentioned, and just feel the emotion, emphasis in feeling that emotion and giving yourself that space. I just find the synchronicities uncanny, because I literally sat with that last week, like really dug into that little tidbit or golden nugget. And I was like, wow, I haven't got this right all the time, but I wanted to understand the process that I needed to go through. And it's so funny how you mentioned that, and just how everything just started tying in. So I didn't really have a lot to say, because Karis and I we have these conversations, and then she's going to say what I'm probably going to say because she reads my mind. And then I just like, okay, well, now I didn't say it, but I did say it, but she said it. So now sometimes when she says stuff,
That's amazing, you guys.
We're not codependent.
There's a book by Jen Sincero called You Are a Badass. And in there she talks about this analogy, how just to simplify what you're saying about removing the person, let's say you have a boat that's parked and someone else has a boat, and then they drive past and they smash into your boat and scratch the side of it. Initially you're angry at the person for driving the boat into your boat, but when you remove the person and it's just the wind, or it's just an accident, or it's something that happens, then how can you be angry?
It just is.
So when you remove the person, it's just a thing that happens for you to pay attention. But yeah, honestly, Xavier, thank you so much. This was incredible.
I really appreciated this conversation.
Do you have any closing words?
The whole thing was a close.
Mic drop.
The first thing that I want to offer to people who listen to this and how they go through their own integration process is to create some willingness, to create a willingness to go beyond the just information awareness.
Mm.
And there is something that is really important to create right now. It is compassion.
Mm.
And the way I see compassion is to see the other one in the humanity, meaning everything that they are experiencing, feeling, and understanding that in their shoes, their experience is valid.
Mm-hmm.
Taking into consideration that the programming, everything they are experiencing is valid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is the first step of compassion. And the second step of compassion for me is really recognizing their divinity.
Mm.
If you are compassionate towards somebody and understanding that, taking into consideration everything that they went through, the way they are responding right now is absolutely valid. But at the same time, you are denying to themselves the possibility to potentially change their experience. It is not true compassion. For me, compassion is seeing the other person in the wholeness of who they are. And if we are at the space where we are willing to see, validate, do our best to understand, but also get that this is a divine being in a human body, we create the bridge. And in all those conversations, it's going to be very important to see others at the same time in their pain and to remind them of their power. Seeing them in the pain and seeing them in their full power is very necessary right now. Now, the other thing is, just like we said, the willingness to really go within. There is nothing that changes that. There is nothing that replaces that.
Mm-hmm.
The willingness to go within. And it's really necessary for all of us to be at a place where we clean up our own emotional slate so much that the most racist person in your presence would not even be able to word racism to you because it's not allowed in your space. And you can only do that as you do the inner work. Because if a racist person comes towards you and you still have some emotional residue within, that person has something to reflect upon.
Yeah.
And what happens if enough people do this work of cleaning up emotionally? And I even have a big visualization that I give to people. I'm going to give it here for people who want to do that work. I'm just going to word the process. Allow yourself to think into your... Sorry?
No, I said you don't have to shorten it. Like, you can really go ahead and...
Yeah. Allow yourself to sink into your heart and just to slow down your breath, just like Karis mentioned. Slow down your breath and allow your awareness to shift in your body from your head to your heart. And really visualize yourself walking into your heart. And as you walk into your heart, you're going to see a huge door. And on that door, there is your picture as what you look like right now. And there is race. Imagine that there is race written on that door. And as you open the door, give yourself permission, if you're ready, to open the door and to walk into it. And you're going to see a big table where only one seat is highlighted. And that seat is you as you are right now, the color of your skin right now. And all the other seats are in the dark, but you can hear whispers. And those are different aspects of yourself from all the different ethnicities in the planet at the moment, but they are just muted. They want to come to the surface. They want to be seen. But you have just over-identified with the white version of yourself or the black version or the indigenous, whatever your race is at the moment. And unity becomes available when you turn on the light switch. And you see that all those other races sitting at the same table of the race room in your heart, they are you with just different skin colors. They are you and they just want to be integrated with you right now. And in that moment, you have a beautiful opportunity to create some sort of group hug and to say to yourself, it is safe for me to see and hear you and accept you right now, just the way you are. And in that moment, allow all the different versions of yourself to stand up and to come together, just like a circle, a group hug, and they are touching each other. And in that moment, there is a sacred reunion that is happening. It's as if those individuations, different races, they are coming into one body. Call that new color purple, if you wish, but they are coming into one body. And this is you creating full acceptance with the expressions of the human body on this planet. And this is just the visualization that I want to offer. And as you create that reunion, when you're ready, you can stay there for as long as you want. When you're ready, you just come out slowly of the race room into your heart, where right now there is light, just like incredible, beautiful light happening. And you come out of there fully integrated. This is another powerful visualization that I often do with people. And when they're allowing themselves to dive in there and to really have that integration happening within them, it is going to be very hard to just have a skin-based judgment ever again. Because every race that you are rejecting, it is creating a new abandonment wound. You would be rejecting that part of you within again that you have just created that reunion with. You understand that the reflection that you see in a Black person, it is just you. And often when you do that, some people literally have some remembrance of previous lifetime experiences where they were a fully different body, a fully different color. And yeah, anybody who wants to do this visualization, I invite you to dive into it and see what happens.
That was so beautiful. Honestly, I felt myself going through that as you were saying it. And I felt very emotional towards the end, but it was not, it was just to feel that love that everyone is in. Because we're all one. And just to see it like that, in a way that your soul can understand, and the way that thank you so much for sharing this, because yeah, it was really beautiful for me. Thank you. I'm still at a loss for words.
You're welcome.
It's just you giving every aspect of yourself a seat at the table and giving those aspects recognition and integrate. It's simply powerful. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
You are welcome. And yeah, this is what I wanted to finish with and offer it as practical thing that people can do internally so that they can be more accepting of others out there.
Much, Xavier. Like I always say to you, thank you for the gift of being who you are. I'm so grateful to be alive in a time where there's healers that we can communicate with, like yourself, and that we all have access to the space. And if anyone feels called to do this work, please you can message any of us. We all have young kids. Nobody sleeps here, so just yeah. But let's just get that one out there. But honestly, I know this is not easy work to go through. And if you really don't feel like you know where to start and you feel really pushed and guided to open up the space for yourself, then honestly, you message any of us. We are all here to help. And yeah, so just thank you so much for honoring yourself as you honored us by listening to us as well. And I hope
my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Xavier. And to everyone listening, I hope that you take an hour for yourself just to reflect on everything that this podcast has brought up within you. But yeah,
maybe give it a listen again and take some notes.
I'm going to.
I'm probably going to do that. But thank you so much, Xavier, and much blessings.
It's a huge honor to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
And if you're really wanting to level up, check out our private coaching, where we combine cutting-edge neuroscience, practical strategies, and supportive insights from human design, life experience, and neurolinguistic programming to help you unlock your full potential and create lasting change, be it in your life, your relationships, or your business. Until next time, you have the power to make the shift. Go do it.